Well, let's get some perspective. Kevin Book is Managing Director of Research at ClearView Energy Partners. And Kevin, perhaps we've turned a page, perhaps not the final one in this saga, but we did just hear that BP is looking to sell assets in Vietnam and in Pakistan, that their spokesperson says they will be selling those assets to cover the Gulf oil spill costs. What do you know about these assets? How much of the tab does this cover?
Well, that's recent news to me, and I don't know anything about the assets specifically. The question investors are going to be asking is, are they getting rid of fat or muscle? Are these the most profitable assets that they have to divest? I think that that's probably closer to fat than muscle, but we'd have to see, knowing more about the specific properties.
Yeah, we're continuing to get details on that as well. Well, I want to ask you, because you had initially given estimates once the well was capped, saying that this is ultimately going to save BP some money here. You say that the cost would be lowered from $51 billion in your estimation to now $39 billion or even lower, given that there's a cap on here. Since we've gotten those reports of seepage, has that changed your estimate?
It doesn't really change the estimate. They're pretty vague estimates in the final analysis, because you don't know two things. You don't know, first, how much the government is going to actually hold BP accountable, and second, you don't know how much of it BP is going to have to bear on their own. But you do know that the biggest component of cost, Margaret, has always been how much you're going to be fined on a criminal basis if criminal negligence is shown under both the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act and the Oil Pollution Act. And that adds up fast. So we're talking about the difference between the upper bound, basically $51 billion, and it might fall as low as 24 to 39 now if they keep the well capped until the kill.
I mean, this spill has obviously reached the highest offices today. David Cameron meeting with President Obama. BP is expected to be at the top of their very first official meeting here at the White House. Give me a sense of how that will change things here. I mean, what role is the British government actually going to be playing in determining the cost to BP? Any influence?
Well, yeah, I don't think that they have a lot of influence, Margaret. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. There's a different problem, and it's more of a problem in the home countries themselves, which is that the perception American taxpayers are reaching into British stakeholders' pockets, given the number of pension funds and private interests that own BP. The public sentiment is probably not going to look any different than it has. We have other important reasons to be friends with the UK, and it's not going to change over this.
Now, well, one thing that may be changing is how energy policy is legislated and regulated in this country. I know Senator Reid says he wants a bill on the floor of the Senate by as early as next week. What does that look like?
Well, it looks like it's not going to be what the bill that's being discussed, that could be out as soon as tomorrow night, we'll see. Wow. It's supposed to have 4 parts, of which one is a climate change component, one is green energy, one is tax policy changes, and one of them is oil spill related. I think if there's going to be a bill, it won't be till September. The bill we're going to see probably will be the oil spill bill, and there's room for the energy tax components. But there's very little belief on our part, or anyone we talk to on the Hill, that they can get a climate bill done.
So as early as
energy only.
As early as tomorrow,
Sorry.
Even though we don't quite yet know what happened on the rig itself.
Well, the oil spill provisions that we're seeing right now reflect general changes in the safety practices that are required of producers in the Gulf of Mexico and of the regulators. So they certainly could add more to it, but they're changing the overall broad brushstrokes, not the fine.
All right, Kevin, we'll look for that legislation, and thank you for giving us your perspective.